You ever watch someone pour concrete over the truth and just pretend you wouldn't notice? That's what happened to me. That's what got me sitting here telling you this story. They thought they could bury the law under a fake HOA map, just tuck it away like no one would dig it up again. My name's Mark. I'm a retired investigator. And since 1978, every inch of this land has been in my family's hands. But the day Karen, the self declared queen of the so called HOA, tried to pave over my easement to build her little community kiosk, she didn't realize she was about to meet the world's most stubborn neighbor. You'd think a property dispute would be about fences or a barking dog. Nah, try trespassing forged plats, bribery hell, even a cover up at the county office. And what did I have? Just one choice document, everything. So I did. And when reason got me nowhere, I put in 6 steel bollards they sure as hell couldn't ignore. This is the story of how a quiet Texas ranch road became the graveyard for one HOA's empire. Not with fists, but with deeds footage and federal code. You ever hear steel hinges scream? Like really scream? Ripped through the morning fog, by the time I hit the gate, her SUV was already halfway down the dirt road, dust rolling behind her like some kind of omen. And there it was, her smile, grinning at me from the side mirror. Like she'd won. Like none of this mattered. That gate, she'd busted it twice already. I welded it back on myself, reinforced the posts, replaced the lock. Not because I love fencing folks out, but because people like Karen think an open field means open invitation. First time she did it, I let it slide. Second time, I filed notice with the HOA. Third time, she didn't even slow down. Her license plate read 4, Sea Queen, a little wink, to the HOA's Fourth Creek Covenant, where Karen ran the place, not just as president, but as self-declared moral compass. Her whole deal, that appearances matter more than rights. A clipped lawn overrules boundaries. Uniform pavement beats history. Problem is, I never lived in her HOA, never signed a covenant. My parcel wraps around the subdivision like a scar. Recorded in 1978 before the HOA was even a thought. My dad bought it for the water rights. I kept it for the quiet. But Karen, well, she didn't believe in quiet. So there I was, running my gloved hand along the bent latch, deep grooves where her bumper hit. Half a padlock, dangling gray paint streaked down the cedar. Hers. I took a long, cold breath and headed for the shed. Popped open the heavy file box marked HOA interference. You don't want to know how thick those folders were. Emails, hand-delivered notices. Violation slips for things I didn't even own. Unregistered chicken coop, unauthorized trailer. Unsightly, native grass. Lies, all of it. I grabbed my camera, snapped time-stamped photos from 4 angles, then yanked the SD card from the trail cam. Installed it after incident number 2, pointed straight at the gate. Solar-powered night mode, the works. Back at the kitchen table, I slid the card into my laptop. There she was. 7:13 a.m., white Range Rover. Karen at the wheel, not a flinch, not a hesitation. Aimed for the right post, probably hoping to weaken the cedar so she could blame the weather. But her jaw set, chin lifted, she knew what she was doing. This wasn't about access. It was about dominance. Called the sheriff. Deputy Heron again. He sighed, already tired of me. You got footage this time, he asked. Yes. Time-stamped. Angles clear. He hesitated. You want to press charges? I want trespass recorded. And my water main runs under that path. That gave him pause. All right. Someone will stop by. He didn't. They never do. Not for neighbor stuff. So I drove to the county office, handed over a copy of the deed, and got a certified duplicate. Did something I hadn't done in years, dug out my dad's old survey map. Handwritten in red ink. Showed the original access trail long before Fourth Creek was anything but grass and wind. traced the line with my finger. That path Karen drove on, that was mine. Back home, I printed an aerial photo, marked the boundary lines overlaid. The county survey highlighted the easement in blue, laminated it, hung it on the barn wall. This wasn't over. By sundown, I got an email from the HOA. Repeated noncompliance, access gate structure. They called it aesthetic disharmony, obstruction of shared paths. Failure to remove it in 5 days. $250 per day fines. Legal proceedings. I almost laughed. They weren't just ignoring the law, they were rewriting it. I clicked reply. I'll attach the deed, the survey. 3 frames of the footage. Wrote, "You're sending violations to the wrong jurisdiction. I don't report to 4C, but I will report this to court." Didn't hit send. Not yet. Just stood on the porch, staring at the crushed gate in the distance. They thought paperwork could erase history. But the land remembers more than people do. That's something my father always said before. There were sidewalks and committee meetings before Karen. Next morning, coffee in hand, I stared at that laminated map. 50 years of brushstrokes and boundary lines, faded ink. Original easement, marked with a red X. Legal corridor no wider than a pickup granted to my family in '78. And now it was a war zone. They called it a shared access path, claimed I was blocking the community. Truth. This wasn't a community road. It was a grandfathered livestock and utility easement. And I had the documents. None of that mattered to Karen. Not to people who confuse confidence with law. She'd lived in Fourth Creek 5 years tops. Bought her way onto the board in 8 months. Rewrote guidelines within a year. Grass length, paint color, and now shared access to make my easement theirs. It might have worked if I didn't know how to read a paper trail. 18 years in enforcement, mostly federal. Quiet work. I know how to dig through county filings, trace plat maps, and find what gets accidentally lost when developers want a clean slate. So I went back to the assessor's office, pulled old survey plats from pre-subdivision days, found it. Original survey, 1978 easement, right where Karen drove. Then I found the developer's plat from 2006. No mention of the easement. Just a green space labeled Community Reserve. They erased it just like that. Scanned both versions, flagged the line, Reserve A maintained under 4C covenant. Lie, printed side by side, slipped them into a folder labeled Plat Discrepancy. Road access fraud. Because now it wasn't just trespassing. This was manipulation. That night, they taped a new notice on my gate, plastic wrapped, as if the weather could erase arrogance. Violation of Section 5B, access interference. I tore it down, took a photo, filed it with the rest. Next day, the knock came. 3 board members. Karen in the middle, crimson blazer heels that sank into ranch dirt. "We're here as a courtesy," she said, all sugar. "The board's installing a keyless barrier for community flow." "On my easement?" I asked. "It's not yours anymore," she said. "It's Reserve A." I handed her the 1978 deed, pointed to the original plat. She didn't look at it, just turned to the others. "Let's proceed." "Ever wonder why GPS calls it Private Access Ranch Road?" I asked her. She paused, blinked, then kept walking. 2 days later, I watched a landscaping crew measure out spots for a concrete pour. Karen pointing clipboard in hand. What they didn't see was my drone 40 feet up recording everything. And what they didn't expect was the lawsuit I filed that night. Petition for injunctive relief, every scrap of evidence, original deed, altered plat drone footage, emails, photos. I wanted a restraining order, no construction or modification on that easement without judicial review. They wanted to bury my rights, but I knew where to dig. 3 days later, I get a PDF. Immediate action required. $1,250 in fines for noncompliance and a bill for my own gate. I leaned back, stared at the bent cedar post in the yard. They weren't backing down. They were doubling down. That morning, the calls started. Blocked numbers, robotic voicemails about compliance incentives. Then, Karen herself voice, all syrup. Mark, this isn't personal. Let's avoid dragging this into something messier. She always said she spoke for something holy. I knew better. This wasn't enforcement. This was a squeeze, bleed me dry through paperwork penalties until I gave up. So I drove to town, met Marty, a property attorney who doesn't scare easy. She looked over my evidence maps, drone shots, the whole mess. Mark, she said, this isn't just overreach. It's fraud. If they hid your easement, that's material concealment. Keep every receipt, every voicemail. And file a FOI, emails meeting, minutes contractors, let's find the money trail. Back home, I doubled my camera angles. Added one aimed at the oak line. That's where I'd seen Bo Karen's assistant scoping out with a laser level. They were plotting something. That night, I sent a cease and desist citing trespass laws, deed rights, all the timestamps. Sent it to the board and blind copied every household in the neighborhood. Reaction was immediate. 3 neighbors emailed confused. Thought that trail was public. Karen said she was beautifying Deadland. If it's yours, I'm sorry. Even got a note. They threatened to fine us for asking about your gate. Not everyone was on Karen's side. That scared her more than anything. Next day, I watched workers unload concrete pylons. Not for landscaping. Foundations. They were about to pour a monument on my easement. I didn't stop them. I filmed. Documented every hole drilled, every bag of cement poured, every stake hammered in. Sent it all to Marty, every clip, every log, every photo. We filed for an emergency injunction footage, plat overlays, survey affidavit. It was airtight. And when we served them, the HOA didn't respond. But they sent a newsletter, Community Under Siege. Stand together. Called me a hostile landowner, said I was misinterpreting outdated documents. Tried to crowdsource resistance. But the tide was turning. I drove south, 78 miles, to the regional archive. Dug through boxes of blueprints, overlays, old surveyor logs. Found it easement authorization, 1978, signed and stamped. Permanent ingress via North Utility Corridor. Clear as day. The HOA had paved over my access and acted like it never existed. Then, I requested building permits. Found the real motive, a grant for a community kiosk only valid if the land was community owned. Someone had to fake a map. Someone had to lie. FOIA request went out that afternoon. Checked the trail cam. The concrete pad was cured HOA logo stenciled over it like a gravestone for due process. Called my surveyor, Cal, 30 years in the business. We walked the perimeter, GPS beacons, blinking, compared every marker against the old deed. They're 1.5 feet into your land, he said, tapping his screen. Concrete's on your side, no question. Got the notarized survey in hand. Sent it to Marty. It's enough, she said. Time to go loud. So I printed flyers. Did you know the HOA built on private land structure poured without permission? Ask your board what they're really funding. Tack them to the community board, the trailhead, the school fence. By morning, the neighborhood chat exploded. Most wanted proof. I sent them the survey, the deed drone footage. The tide shifted. That night, someone vandalized the concrete, spray-painted private land. Return it. Karen showed up at midnight, flashlight in hand, just standing at my gate. I stepped outside, boots crunching, looking for something. She jumped, snapped. This isn't over. No, I said. But your jurisdiction ends here. Your footprints are already on my side. She left silent. Couple nights later, 1:42 a.m., the cam caught 2 figures, bolt cutter and crowbar, yanking survey stakes and chipping at the pad. Bo and his buddy. I watched live. Didn't want to fight, just wanted them caught. Flipped on the high beam, scared them off. Every inch was evidence. Filed the police report with the SD cards, the log, the photos. For once, a deputy paid attention. Sent the footage to Marty. We're filing for evidentiary injunction, she said. Restraining order, too. That day, I posted the stills on the community board. Bo yanking a stake, the HOA logo on the concrete. Karen at my fence at midnight. Next morning, someone scrawled beneath the photos, "This is who we're funding." My neighbor, Mrs. Luring, showed up with cornbread and a folded letter. They came to our door. She said, asked us to sign a statement saying you were aggressive. She handed me the paper, pre-filled legalese designed to paint me as a threat. I laughed. Modifications. My own cameras, my own gate. They want people scared of you, she said. But not everyone's buying it. That night, I went public, uploaded a 3-minute video. No narration. Just footage. Deed survey overlay. Time lapse of the kiosk pad trail. Cam footage of Bo and his buddy, the flyer, the old map. Titled it, What They Built, Where They Built It, and Why It Was Never Theirs. 400 views by dawn. In a town of 3,000, that's an earthquake. Reporter showed up, Marshalltown Regional News Desk, filmed the evidence on my truck hood. She shook her head. This isn't misunderstanding, I told her. It's a cover-up. Her segment aired that night across 3 counties. Floodlights, red and blue, strobed across my fence line as I pulled up. Deputies talking to Karen, who was gesturing at my reinforced gate like it was the Berlin Wall. He's escalating, she complained. He's setting traps. My assistant almost broke his leg on those posts, she snapped. I cut and handed over a USB drive. Trail cam footage, trespass, vandalism, survey stakes removed after dark. The deputy weighed it in his hand. Breaking concrete isn't property damage. It is when it's not yours, I said. Back home, I watched my daughter Emma feed the horses. She was quiet, strong, felt the tension. You okay, Dad? She asked. I lied. Yeah, just thinking. But I was strategizing. Because Karen didn't just want my access gone. She wanted me worn out, tired, broke. But I wasn't just a grumpy ex-cop. I was a strategist. And I was done waiting, reviewing footage. I caught something Karen's crew had marked a future trench line toward my underground water line. That crossed a federal line. Once you mess with private water infrastructure in Texas, you're under Title 33, unlawful diversion of water systems. Filed a state report, attached drone footage coordinates waterline charts. Tipped off an old contact just in case. With Emma, I replaced every stake with 3-foot steel rods, painted orange, drilled deep. Poured fresh gravel along the easement, drew a line not out of anger, but out of legal clarity. Karen showed up, standing just outside the boundary. You know this isn't sustainable, she said. Neither is fraud, I replied. We've got the board, the funding. I've got the truth and footage, she blinked. Think this is over? I think it's just begun. Pointed to the new steel sign, private easement, trespass prosecuted. Next morning, I started pouring concrete. 6 steel bollards spaced, evenly built to stop SUVs, not people, all inside my surveyed boundary, registered with the county. By dusk, they were set unmoving as the land. For the first time in months, I felt control return. Karen came screaming the next morning, brought her lawyer, who waved paperwork about illegal modifications. I just handed him the survey, the code, the county permit. He scanned it, brow furrowing. Survey was certified 2 weeks ago. Supported by deeds, FOIA plats, court injunction in motion. See you at the hearing. Karen snapped. You're obstructing emergency access? They can call, I said. Like decent people do. The wind filled the silence, the steel behind me glinting in the sun. Karen turned and walked off, her lawyer trailing. They didn't notice the second drone above them recording everything. Marty called, "They're escalating because they know you're winning." And sure enough, the county inspector came by. I showed him the permit, the deed, the footage. "First time someone's filed everything before we asked," he said. No citation. HOA tried public shaming, newsletters, photo ops, staged forums. But it backfired. Neighbors started asking questions. Then, Donald, retired engineer from Phase 1, brought over the original developer blueprints. My easement marked plain as day. I scanned and filed it. Next, Karen's HOA filed a lawsuit, tried to rush it through a friendly judge, her tennis partner no less. Marty filed a motion for conflict of interest. We got a neutral judge instead. The group chat split into factions, but more folks came forward with evidence. David, former treasurer, met me at a diner, slid me a flash drive. Karen's been moving money to a shell company tied to her brother, almost 28 grand. Fraud documented. We filed new complaints. 3 board members resigned. Karen finally tried to spin it as misunderstanding, but I stood up at the meeting, calm, slow. "You paved over my rights, faked a map, raided your own budget, and tried to silence me." The silence afterward said everything. The tide turned. Court day, Judge Kelly by the book. Karen's lawyer called my Bollards hostile. Marty entered the deed surveys invoices showed they'd